Probably give up my whole life to tour with Jean-Luc. I adore him and his music, and the guys in the band
Is
and
is
stuff.
it the music or is it more the alchemy that you have with that with
You know,
him?
I think the person who was most uncomfortable in that band, and not for long, by the way, was John, because the Jean-Luc. If there's nothing else that he ever did great, but he does amazing everything great to me. I mean, he's my hero, and I have some idol issues with him. Is that Jean-Luc picks his personnel brilliantly. I mean, both his band, his crew, he is a genius with this. And every band, every incarnation of his band that I've been with has ended up like no other band I've ever been with. Like a family that would die for each other. And I'm not just being, flowery here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exaggerating. We are, and we have this thing. So when we got together again with Jean-Luc for the Anderson Ponty Band, here is a band that is like no other, that experienced what no other jazz rock fusion band had ever done, which was being on the top 40 charts and been treated by a record company as rock stars. We were playing with Supertramp. That Chick Corea wasn't doing that. We were just in a whole other thing. And here we are as a reunion, and we love each other, and we read music like crazy. Our technical prowess is good, great. We all read music. I mean, Jean-Luc could write something, we'll sight read it and be able to record it by that night. It's one of the things he was adamant about, really. And not that, I mean, he's had some great players that don't read, like Alan Holdsworth didn't read music at all, but in this band situation. And here we are all back together. We're all grown up now. Now we have, some of us have children, some of us are married, some of us own houses. We're not out there trying to get, excuse my language, laid every gig.
Yeah.
We're here for the music. Is a little bit different.
Yep.
Than it was, and in walks John Anderson, and so we had a conversation before the gig. We'd recorded for about a year and a half, but it was all done on Skype. We never met each other. Nobody ever talked to nobody ever.
Really?
The whole album. John would call me on the phone and he'd say, "Look, can you get on Skype? I have an idea." I'm like, "Okay." I get on Skype, and John would say, "Play this on the guitar." So we play. He'd say, instead of playing like that, play this part first. Don't do it like Trevor. Do it that way. Or when we did Mirage or any of the Ponty songs, and then and John would say, "Look, I love the record." He says, "But can you make it more funky?" And I played it.
But
says, "No,
can you make it more funky?
Yeah, okay. I can't tell you.
Hey, let me interrupt and ask you one question. Is there anything more annoying than being at a concert, like a Yes concert, next to somebody that's going to sing along with John Anderson?
Oh no, it's over.
I mean, that is you just
I tried
the worst experience ever, and there's always somebody right near me.
There is. And I said, I just saw them play here. I was a guest, and there was somebody like that. And I was like, ah. But anyway, so we had this situation where we got on stage. We started to rehearse. The first time we met him was in Philadelphia, and it was really uncomfortable. It was
just tension.
There was tension, but the tension was actually between him and me first, which I've never, ever, ever had with any musician. I walked off. The attorney had to come out. I was going to get on a plane and leave. And you may think differently, and people I work for, I'm not a diva. There were some things that went down where he was pulling his Napoleon stuff and telling me what to do, and I don't work that way. I mean, I've worked for the greatest conductors, musicians, producers. I mean, they don't tell you what to do. When you're at a certain level, they know how to work you. And I told John, I said, it's not going to happen, man. You know, and he said, well, whatever happened. Anyway, John and I are, I would say, the most amazing best friends ever now. Yeah. That was only the first 2 days. But John admitted that he was uncomfortable, because here we are, all schooled basically, all played together off and on for 20 years, and here he comes. So we had to work from the day one to make it not the Jean-Luc Ponty Band featuring John Anderson. It had to be the Anderson Ponty Band. And this, again, is Jean-Luc Ponty's greatness. He made sure that, well, he's always teaching me, Scott, and listeners out there. John Anderson's famous line in the band was, I don't want to imitate him, but you can go and imitate him. No. It's just try it. Just try it.
Yeah.
And he would have us try stuff that a schooled musician would never even think of doing. And I'll be honest with you, there were a few times, especially at the beginning, where we'd all look at each other like, holy crap, we're in for it, you know. Because he was in a band, yes, it still is, his version of Yes, which I believe is the right one, where they practiced for 6 months and they memorized their parts, you know.
Oh, yeah. They would tell the same jokes in between the same songs night after night after night. I mean,
well, a lot of entertainers do the same, but I'm talking about the guitar player, you know, no matter if it's Trevor or anybody, right, Steve? They memorized every note of their solos. Everything was orchestrated. They spent the 6 months memorizing their parts. Here he comes to the Jean-Luc Ponty Band, where we don't even know how to lip sync when we did TV shows because we're always improvising.
Yeah.
So we had this rock and roll mentality, which, by the way, as a studio musician, I have, I'm aware of. Because, you know, I did a gig with Bryan Adams, and he was the same. Most rock stars want you to play what people hear on the record.
Yeah.
So, and that's a whole other form of doing this. So John comes to me, he says, you know, you need to play the solo off the album. And I remember I said, I don't know how to do that. He said, what do you mean you don't know how to do that? You played it. I said, I've never copied my own notes ever. I'm 58 years old or whatever I was then. I was 59 years old. Like, I don't know how to copy my licks. I played it and it's over. Yeah. So everything, this was an enormous thing. But he started with the just try it thing. And Jean-Luc was the one. Ponty was the one to lead us. If John said just try it, Jean-Luc did everything he could to try it. I mean, and because of this brilliance that Jean-Luc is, he changed everything. He changed everything. Jean-Luc led us, as he always did, into creating a brand new band. A band. You know, we don't get the same money as he does. We don't have part of the publishing. We don't produce the records, but he knows what a band is. Mm-hmm. And so here he formed this thing. And of course, I got to give credit to John Anderson too. Because once John got used to this and the way we worked, remember, we're like the army that he just joined, right?
Right.
He did everything in his power to speak to us in a way that we would understand, to show us respect. And eventually, when we finished, a year and a half to a year and 3/4 later, he would come off the stage, man, and be beaming that we did such a great show and played some magnificent new stuff in, long distance or, or something.
Yeah.
We still had, I did, by the way, play a lot of my parts of my solos off the record, and I enjoyed it after a while. But the thing was that when the band ended, and we're pretty much ended, John was really sad, like super sad. He did at first. I mean, Yes was going to, or what they, ARW
Right.
was already being publicized when we were finishing, and he was looking forward to seeing Trevor and Rick, but he knew that was going to be a different trip. There were nights where, I sang backgrounds with John Anderson with this, so did Keith Jones, the bass player, and he would just start taking the song other places, like just do improvisation like a jazz person would at the end of the songs. And he knew that he was kicking our asses because I'm supposed to sing backup and I have to watch his mouth because I don't know what the hell he's going to sing, where he's going to place the beat. He'd sing Owner of a Lonely Heart like the record, but the rest of the stuff, he just like,
Yeah. I've seen a bunch of just about every one of his solo ventures, and then he did one with Rick Wakeman a few years ago, just him and Rick. And as a fan, you're watching these songs change, but not as dramatically like with you guys as grown men having to, you initially to have this ego clash and to have that like kind of melt into something and then mold into something great as a man, as an adult. That's a really cool thing.
Well, it was magnificent. I mean, it was, I get this on, Facebook is Facebook. I love Facebook. I'm a big Facebook person, big fan. Plus, I have a social media business of my own, marketing business. So I really know the ins and outs. And more, I always get this comment, it must have been amazing to play from Prague people. Must have been amazing to play with John. Oh, how lucky you are. And at first I was like, well, he's just a singer, But I feel more like the fans now, standing next to him night after night and getting to know him and his wife, Janie. They're precious to me. And this may sound unfair with a lot of the musicians perhaps listening out there. But I looked at John and here's a guy, he'd pick up the guitar and he didn't even know what chord he was playing. I'm a teacher in a music college, I have courses out. And I thought this was the most amazing thing ever, right? Because he writes hit songs, he does this, he does that. But what he has is an understanding of this thread that some musicians or a lot of musicians who do this for a career have. He knows. He's listened to all kinds of music, classical, jazz. He couldn't wait to play with Jean-Luc, even though he's a prog god. And he's magnificent. He's everything people say he is. Now, the personality that he has on the public as a spiritual advisor or whatever, I've read stuff that they had their baby to him, and I know John as the guy who gets, who would rather not wait for an airplane, He's a normal guy. It's not like he's walking around John Anderson is not Street Chimney.
No, but there was that mystery about that music, and it was different than regular rock, progressive rock in general, I guess, maybe, but that in particular, there was always this mystique with that, with them. But lyrically, I understand them now, after understanding what consciousness is now. And now lyrically, I understand, but how did I love this stuff so much and not even know what the fuck he was talking about?
I didn't even know. I was
a clue.
Every night we started. We had some shows. I don't know if the one you saw. We did was the one thing without an intermission, but most of the time we had an intermission. We did 2.5 hour shows.
Yeah.
And then we'd start the second show, and he would do some excerpts from Topographic Oceans.
Yeah. New Psalm.
Yeah. And I stood behind him. To this moment, I have no freaking idea what he's talking about, but it was pleasant. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, and I'd go back to the hotel room and start making stuff up, making fun of him until I realized he's a genius. And what really gets me is his positivity. We have a song. We did a song on the album called New World, where he talks about a new world order, where everything's going to be great. and everything is going to be like we couldn't picture how amazing our lives are going to be, our existence on this planet. And the more effed up things are or were, it was during our tour, there was the mass killing in France, in the south of France, and there was this, and there was a shooting, and there was a death, and there was, I mean, all kinds of stuff that went on. We went through the elections, here. Horrible things. And the more those things happen,
no worries.
The more that happen, the more he's telling us the world is going to be beautiful. And you know what, Scott? I agree with him. Yeah. I agree with him. I see all this junk going on, and my heart is bleeding for people who have been hurt in so many ways. And of course, the people who still starve and animals that are tortured. And I mean, I don't list all the horrible things our planet has.
Yeah.
But I do believe that something, and I'm not talking about a religious thing like we're waiting for the Messiah.
No, I get what you're saying.
That the human...
There's a big movement now, Jamie, with this consciousness right now. It's the momentum it has is sick. And he was writing about this in the 70s.
70s, yeah.
He's so far ahead of this curve. So he's so, and I know people, and I've had them up, interviewed them here. It's a fascinating perspective, but he is so grounded in that.
He's grounded in that.
I think there's a lot to be said for this thing, and I just wanted to ask you this as far as Jean-Luc, because that guy is so graceful and elegant as a, not just as a musician, but just he carries himself with such elegant. I mean, he's as cool as can be, man. And then he starts playing and he's ripping. I mean, it's like that. It's fascinating to see that. And I just I have a therapist who's like kind of had me on this whole thing with masculinity and femininity, right? So it's like at the forefront right now of just about everything. It keeps popping up left and right. But he, when it comes to these guys, they seem to be so secure in who they are as artists, as how they believe, how they live their lives, their authenticity. And the fact that they can do it in a manner of confidence, blend forces, what's that like for you when you can see that? Because it's not the masculinity takes that ego clash, and this is going to go like, there's nobody giving in, and the pride, the ego takes over, and it can really, listen, yes, for example,
amazing observation and question. The thing is that my research, and I can only speak about myself too, of course, is that I have a huge feminine side.
Well, you all do. Everybody does.
But I mean, I had someone I dated for a long time, and we went to the movies, and it was Gorillas in the Mist. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
And I'm crying my eyes out, and she says, "You're like a baby. What man cries at these movies?" And of course her upbringing was her dad didn't cry, but I've had the lady that I've been dating the last couple of years. We have a little joke going on. I had a rabbit named Rex, right? Rex the rabbit. Do you know about Rex the rabbit?
No.
Okay, Rex the rabbit. You're going to need an 8-hour show here. Sorry, listeners and watchers. Good. So I live next to a really nice neighbor, and one day he comes back. He's got the cutest black rabbit. I got 16 pets. The last thing I need is an animal in here. And it's Rex the rabbit. And I said, "Can I hold Rex the rabbit?" I don't know if you know. He actually was a Rex rabbit. That's what they call him. They're very soft fur. He was gorgeous. I mean, I just loved him. And I had a little rabbit when I was in first grade or second grade, Sheldon. And one day he got out of the hutch. I never saw him again. So for 50 years now, I've been wanting a rabbit. So I started to go next door to see the rabbit. And then one day I knock on the door. It's like July. It's like 100 degrees. And I said, "Where's Rex?" Oh, I'm sorry. I left a big part of the story out. The wife became pregnant with their first child. So now they read something that rabbits have I forgot what, pastorella? Have you? It's
No.
It's an airborne thing.
Okay, so
It's one of these-
kids shouldn't be around them, right?
Yeah,
Infants.
so now, where's Rex? Is he in the back? No, no, no. He's in the garage. So I was like, he's in the garage. Yeah. So we open the garage door. It's like 100 freaking degrees in there. His poop is melted, and he's in the dark. He's in the dark. I mean, if this were anybody but these lovely people next door, I would have called the police. And I looked at the guy. His name was Eric, and I said, "Look, is there any chance you would give up Rex? Because I'd like to give him a home." I said, I know you're having your baby. This guy couldn't have jumped faster. Oh, please, please. Anyway, so Rex had never been out of the cage. He's burning up, and I take him. And anyway, there's a video on YouTube about it. It's Rex. Rex wants your vote or something. Rex the rabbit. Anyway, in this video, I wrote all this music, and Rex tells a story about how he was, burning up in the garage and is stuck to this poop, and then his daddy, who's his daddy now, picked him up, and then, which is true, I took him and I rolled his cage over the lawn, and I took him in the house, and the first thing I did was open the door, and I said, "Go," and Rex and I, a couple of animals in my life, my dog Pistol had just died this year, my first chinchilla Lucky. I love all my animals.
Right.
But Rex and I can't even imagine how close I was to him. He seemed to know everything that I thought, and I spent every moment I could with him till the day he passed away. And this video that I made of Rex, where Rex is talking, and I'm using real illusion where there's mouth moves, and all that stuff, I cry like a baby when I watch this. And so the lady that I date, she said, "What are you crying about?" She said, "That's you talking." I said, "You don't get it. That's not me. I'm just channeling his feelings through the video, just like I would the guitar." And she refused to get it. So it's become a beloved kind of joke between the two of us. Right. Because whenever, if we have a little dispute, or she's busy or not giving me the attention that I want, I go to YouTube and I stick Rex's video on as loud as I can, and I sit in here, and by the time she gets in the room, I got tears coming down my face. Yeah. But that's the effeminate side is extremely important to creative people, I believe.
Well, that was my point, because in music, right? Like you said earlier, sports was my thing, and that was just so, that's what I knew. That's it. You know what
logic,
I mean?
Testosterone, and smarts.
Yeah, right. And all the information that you're conditioned with, right? So yes, that's the direction it's going. And then you hear music, and you start to pay attention, and you hear guys singing a song about heartbreak, and you're going like, you can relate with the song totally, but it's nothing I could say out loud in front of an audience. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so maybe that's, I think, well, not maybe, but there becomes a fascination with that. Just the ability to express whatever your truth is at whatever period of life you're going through.
Maybe in good shape. I don't know if you've been reading the science behind what's being thrown in the rivers, lakes, and the oceans. I don't know if you... that apparently, since women have been on birth control pills for so very long, that's going in the water when they urinate. So they're saying that men are becoming more effeminate because we're becoming used to having more estrogen in our water. And I mean, this is true science. I was reading about this. There's some concern about that.
I don't even think on that. Like, I wasn't even thinking on that level. Like, kind of.
I
Whoa, slow your jets, buddy. Easy, Turbo.
It's a big science. But Jean-Luc has this effeminate side that way. But, when I first met him, I was a young kid, and he was more like, I would say, like the father, And he guided me, and with respect, I must say. And so he's a very strong personality.
Without saying much, right?
Yeah, without saying much.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of like, and I really truly believe that we find what we need, what we desire often but ourselves. We find it. And my dad was kind of that way. Like in my house, growing up, being slapped by your parents or physical contact with your parents other than a hug was not allowed. I know there are people out there that feel that beating their kids is okay and whatever, or giving a love tap or whatever it is. In my house, it was just not that way. But I'll tell you what was. My father could put me in the bottom of the ocean mentally if he'd say, Jamie, I'm disappointed in you. And I can't, I'm even thinking about it, And so there's different degrees of how you work your life and look towards that stuff. And in the same way, Jean-Luc, if he said to me after a show, tonight was a triumph, or as he used to say with his French accent, a triumph, my world exploded with joy. And you're right. He doesn't say, he's very eloquent. If you ever go to dinner with him, and I hope I'll be able to hook that up with you, for you, he's so interesting. Life filled with experience, with, of course, the musical thing's off the hook. But, he's been to every exotic place, and we can talk about Machu Picchu for 2 hours, and he's mesmerizing. And John Anderson was that way too. For my relationship with John, I'm the guitarist, right? And he told me right before we started Anderson Ponty that he needs to make sure that the guitar player is like his best friend, like that musically. Like he told me every musician that he's ever been with, the guitar player was always his right-hand man. He asked me, are you willing to do that? Are you going to be willing to be my right-hand man? I was like, yeah, So when we got in the van, or in the limo or whatever, John would tell me stories. He knew me, He'd tell me stories about, being 16 and hanging out with Pete Townsend or whatever. He'd tell me stories about, the England before anybody was famous. Who's the singer in The Who, the lead singer? Roger Daltrey. About Daltrey, about this one, about the Beatles, he knows I'm a 60s kid. And he's from England, from the rock star stuff.
Yeah, they were selling stadiums out on a regular basis, right? They were rock stars like
this. Yeah, I'm not a magazine or an interview. I'm eating a Subway sandwich, and he's going, oh yeah, he got a cigarette and like this. I was like, wow, man, I'm talking to like one of the biggest rock stars that ever lived, and I had to like move that around so I could just be his equal on stage because. Once in a while, I'd be on stage, we'd be playing and I'd say, shit, I had this record, and I'm the guitar player now, what happened, all of this magic in life, you asked me a little earlier about whether I still feel the same way as a musician. And I do. The only other thing is that I understand that even if you believe in destiny, even if you believe in a religious thing, that we have a big, big, big hand in where we end up and how we end up.